Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a early impression video, and it's actually a very special video because it's the first day ever that I've ever worn Boadicea the Victorious, or as I've been calling them, Boadicea the Overpriced, for my scent of the day. And today is a Boadicea the Victorious from a decade ago. And if you've been following my channel, if you've been following my live streams, you know that I had a very good perfume friend, Armando, send me some samples yesterday. And yesterday I did the first part of a two-part series. It's going to be called Blind Sniffing. It's actually listed as Blind Sniffing 3 because there were two previous blind sniffing videos from somebody else, another perfume god person that wants to remain anonymous. So we shall respect his wishes. And so this is the third blind sniffing live stream that I've done. And it's one of my favorite ways to smell perfume because you just take all the bullshit out. All of the marketing, the brand name, the associations, the expectations with price, and you just smell, right? And yesterday, one of the fragrances caught my attention. My favorite of the four that I tried yesterday was actually, to my shock, to my surprise, a Boadicea the Victorious fragrance. And it was actually called Intricate. And Intricate is a fragrance that was animalic, leathery, slightly smoky, and it reminded me a little bit of something like Kinski by Kinski, except for here they use civet instead of castoreum. And there was a note of violet, and you know, it was a fragrance that really spoke to me because of how challenging it was. I love challenging openings. And if you go watch my live stream from yesterday, it was number 2, the second one that I tried, and I tried it on my right wrist. I tried 4 yesterday, number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, and this was the Boadicea the Victorious, number 2. It was called Intricate, and I loved it. And if you go watch my reaction on that live stream, you'll see how much I loved it. I almost actually bought a bottle yesterday. And I kind of waited, and I really wanted to see what the whole dry down was like. And as much as I loved the opening, the first 2 to 3 hours were stunning. Beautiful animalic opening for a niche fragrance. I didn't like what it turned into, though, between hours 3 and 6. It really only seemed like a 6-hour fragrance to me. Yes, I think it did last a little bit longer than that, but all I got was like musky, generic, woody, maybe even you might say amber woods, which is kind of a bad word to use in a dry down of an $800 perfume, but that's just what I got. When I mean, it disappeared very fast from my skin, didn't seem to last very long. And you know, it was just one of those things where if I ever did buy a bottle, I would love to find someone to split a bottle with me because I don't need 100 mils, but 50 mils I could just spray on. 3 hours later, spray on again, you know, 3 hours later, spray on again, just enjoy that first couple hours of the fragrance. So I was smitten with that fragrance, and I said, you know what? There's another fragrance that Armando sent me today from the house of Boadicea called Nemer. And Nemer came out in 2012. And it was created by actually a very famous perfumer in the industry named Christian Provenzano. I have a lot of respect for this gentleman. He's made some very good fragrances that I really love and enjoy. And I realized that not only did Armando send me this fragrance, but Boadicea sent me a sample of this fragrance that I tucked away in my samples and never smelled. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to wear this as my scent of the day. And I've been wearing it all day. It's 2:30. I've had it on since before 8 o'clock in the morning this morning. And actually already I've done, so I did a spray on my left hand this morning when I got ready for work at 8. And then I did a spray on my right hand at noon. It's 2:30, and basically the spray on my left hand was nothing but generic, ambery, woody, maybe a little bit of sandalwood, very soft, almost gone, right? So I just did another spray just now so I could experience the opening again while I speak with you guys. And so I feel like right off of the bat, before we even talk about this fragrance, that puts me off the house. It puts me off. As much as I love the opening, and to be honest, the opening of Nemer is also beautiful. It's a stunning rose oud saffron combination is basically what it is. Now, you might look at this in 2022 and say, rose oud saffron, boring, but remember, this came out in 2012. In 2012, anyone who was anyone had an oud fragrance, had a rose oud fragrance. And so I have to be subjective when I judge this. And to be honest, this fragrance captures my heart when I first spray because this is one of the most realistic rose openings I've ever smelled. So I can tell one thing immediately. They gave Christian Provenzano some of the highest quality rose I've smelled. To be fair, I'm not saying the highest because I've smelled Arij Ladore's Malik Al Taif, and he used royal grade Taif rose there, which is basically the highest quality you can find. They even went one step further in that experiment when they created Malik Al Taif, and they only had women pick the petals because the owner of the rose plantation in Taif, Saudi Arabia, basically said that he found that when delicate women's hands touch the rose petals or pick the petals, it's different than when a man picks the petals because a man's hands are rougher. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but that is how far they took that experiment. And they only used the petals, not the actual bulb in that original experiment. So I have smelled, this does not compare to that, okay? If you're talking some of the best rose fragrances I've ever smelled, you're going to have to go the Arij Ladore, or maybe someone knows of an Insar fragrance that uses amazing rose. I don't know. But if I could pick one rose fragrance, even understanding and knowing this, I would take Malik Al Taif. That's my dream rose. Just like Santal Galore is my dream sandalwood from the House of Arij Ladore, which I don't own either full bottles, but I have videos on both of them on my channel thanks to samples from you guys, just like this, just like from people like Boadicea and Armando. So I have to say, first off, thank you for the generosity. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about the fragrance itself. So when you first spray, you're going to get a classic rose oud saffron combination. And it really was love at first sniff. Again, the same thing happened to me as what happened yesterday on stream with Intricate. Now, Intricate is much more my style, okay? I will wear this, but I have other rose ouds that I could wear already in my collection. I don't really, this is not something that speaks to me to the point where I'm ready to just go buy a bottle. I like it. I would wear it if I had it, but I have to tamper my expectations. It wasn't a pure love like the animalic opening of Intricate was. And, you know, it's something that I would wear. If I could just reapply, I would totally wear this because my curiosity was very piqued at this house, because it's a house that whenever I look at it from the outside, I say, forget this house. This is a bullshit, overpriced, you know, they're talking $600, $700, $800, $900, $1,000 a bottle. And you know that the markups are absolutely insane, especially for a brand like this where they sell it at Neiman Marcus or, you know, Saks Fifth Avenue, wherever the hell. I don't even know what stores are still in business anymore that operate like this. But let's just say Neiman Marcus. Those kind of stores, if you're going to spend this kind of money, I would take Arij Ladore's fragrances all day. But to be completely subjective and fair, I love the opening of it in its own right. And I love the opening for a couple reasons. So, number one is that the rose that you smell is very natural smelling, extremely natural smelling, but not to the point of something like Arij Ladore. It's right there. It's some of the best natural rose you'll smell in it. If you stuck this brand, Boadicea the Victorious, and you put them up against Creed or Roja or Spirit of Dubai or something like that, this is one of the most natural, beautiful rose openings I've smelled. In fact, I would compare it to only one other um, niche fragrance house, and that's Papillon's Tobacco Rose. Papillon's Tobacco Rose has a stunning natural rose opening. So does Nemer. Nemer has a beautiful combination of Turkish rose, Moroccan rose, and jasmine absolute. Now, what's interesting is when you start talking about absolutes, that's usually the heavier, denser, thicker version. And sometimes absolutes can come across smelling jammy. And to my nose, when I tried to break this composition down, usually when you're smelling the pure rose otto, so if you go to my interviews or live stream, there's a playlist where you can click on live streams, I think it's called. And the second Russian Atom interview, so the Russian Atom interview part 2, we went through 50 ingredients. In the first 20 minutes of that interview, we went through the roses he sent me. We talked about everything from Azerbaijan rose, Russian rose, Turkish rose. We talked about Moroccan rose. We talked about Bulgarian rose. We talked about Taif rose. We talked about all kind of roses. And some were citrusy and fresh, and some were fruity. Some were more floral. Some were pink and soft and delicate. And we talked about all of the different types of roses. But one thing that he mentioned to me when we were doing that interview, and I think he's spot on, is that usually when you smell a jammy rose, it's synthetic rose materials that the perfumer is using. There is a little bit of a jammy rose aspect to this, even though it's stunning and beautiful. And one of the most natural, realistic roses, if you're comparing it to this rose otto that, you know, the real thing, right? If you take the real rose otto and try to compare, this is probably as close as you're going to get in a composition like this without taking the next step to indie, where they're only making 150 bottles because they used a certain type of Indian rose, and, you know, that's different, okay? That's different to me. And that's kind of the mountaintop experience. But being fair to this house, stunning rose opening. And the rose was extremely bright. And the thing about it is it's so natural smelling. It's almost juicy. You know, when I first started my journey, I didn't like rose. Actually, I've told this story before, but there's a... I got a sample of Amouage Lyric Man when I really started to get heavy into fragrances. And I gave it to my mom. I basically said, I can't wear this. This is not what a man should be smelling like. Now, I've since changed my tune, and I own a bottle of Lyric Man. I think it's one of the best masculine roses out there, if you want to call it that. One of the best niche roses. And this would compete. I mean, this could compete with something like Lyric Man, but I've changed my tune on rose. If you like a fragrance like, I'll give you an example. Dolce & Gabbana The One Mysterious Nights, which is done by a perfumer who did Aventus. That's a beautiful take on a Middle Eastern style fragrance with lots of saffron, rose, and oud. Now, the oud here is much higher quality. You can get a 150 ml bottle of that for about 150 bucks or less. $1 per mil, let's say. They're asking, what, $3.50 per mil for something like this? Is it 3.5 times better? That's the problem. It's better. It's definitely better. But is it 3.5 times or 4 times better depending on the price? That's a tough one. That's a very tough sell. And, you know, it's a question you kind of have to ask yourself. Value in perfume is very subjective. And I love testing these because it broadens my horizon. I knew nothing about the house of Boadicea the Victorious or Boadicea the Overpriced before. But one thing that I will give this credit for from the get-go is that if you are standing at a department store and you're just spraying and smelling, these will catch your attention for sure. I can totally see why people get infatuated with Boadicea the Victorious because, man, that first couple hours is beautiful. The problem I have is that's where it seems like the fun ends with this house. it seems like they're putting all of their resources into making sure you are completely stunned for the first couple hours. And a fragrance is more than a first couple hours. And so what ends up happening is a couple hours in, the fragrance loses all of that bright, fresh, lemony, slightly jammy. I think because of the Jasmine Absolute makes it slightly jammied, honeyed, fruity. There's a fruity aspect to this. And actually, I made some notes here. And one of the things that I said is that the genius of this fragrance is really the interplay between the oud and the rose, because what your brain and your nose end up kind of focusing on is back and forth between those two. So you'll focus on the oud and you'll pick up some of the Lacourde, like barnyard, slightly barnyard, slightly animalic, not too much though, not so much where it's going to put you off. This is not the night. This is just, it's there as that rose oud contrast, right? But once you start picking up, there's this paint thinner like smell to the oud that you get here. It's a sharp paint thinner like smell. Woody paint thinner is what the oud smells like. And I like that type of oud. I'm a fan, okay? I'm not talking down on the oud used here. It seems to be very good quality. You could even say it's real oud. I honestly don't know if the House of Boadicea the Victorious uses real oud. I don't know if they use, some sort of oud substitute to make it seem like you're smelling oud. Maybe they only use a couple drops of oud, real oud, and everything else is a little bit, embellished oud, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Whatever it is, I like it. I'm a fan, okay? I will profess to be a fan in the first couple hours, because the interplay between the rose and the oud really is the first couple hours. That's where you are going to be stunned by the beauty of this fragrance. I mean, it will literally knock you off your chair. Beautiful opening. And I got that with Intricate yesterday as well. Beautiful opening. Shocked me. Go watch my reaction to finding out it was a Boadicea the Victorious. I was almost pissed off because I was like, oh shit, it's a Boadicea the Victorious fragrance, and I like it. And I am somebody who has a little bit of a collector in me. When I get started on a house, I like to collect everything. There's no way you're going to collect 250 fragrances they released in the last 10 years or 12 years as they've been around as a house. Impossible. And so, what happens in the first couple hours and what my brain focused on is when you notice whenever your brain focuses on the oud and you really start to notice the Lacourde, paint thinner vibe of the oud, which it does give that off. It gives off a slight barnyard, slightly animalic. That's when the rose kind of comes in from the background. And while you're not paying attention to the rose, you're trying to pay attention to the animalic facets of the oud. That's where your brain starts to realize, wait a minute, there's some more aspects to this rose. It's not just a rose oud. You start to see different colors of the rose, and you start to see this pink rose color in your head. You start to see the fruity aspects come through, slightly nectarine-like, slightly pear-like, slightly, slightly fresh, slightly lemony. Actually, in the beginning, when I first smelled, I thought that they used maybe a little bit of bergamot to give it that sprightly opening, but I think it honestly came from the rose. I think that Turkish rose, that Damask rose, whatever you want to call it, with the Moroccan rose gave it this interplay between these layers of rose, and it's beautiful. It really is stunning. The saffron obviously adds to that Middle Eastern style rose oud, and then the backbone of this scent, I think, is the patchouli and the sandalwood. Now, the problem is 2 hours in, and what happens is the fragrance loses all of that beautiful 2 to 3 hours in. Same time frame as in Intricate. Intricate lost all of that animalic part that I love so much and kind of devolved into this generic What did I say Intricate was like? Intricate devolved into this musky base, this boring musky base. This one devolves into this, Nemer devolves into this kind of boring, ambery, woody base that smells like amber woods. Intricate also had a slight amberwood smell in the dry down. But I don't like how the fragrances, both times now that I've tested this house, seem to kind of lose. It almost seems like they just fall apart. Like you're literally witnessing it just break up, like break into a million little pieces and scatter. Uh, it seems so well put together for the first 2 or 3 hours. And then the dry down, you're going, what happened? This doesn't even smell like the same fragrance. I mean, this smells like a boring, ambery, just generic. It's lost all of its beauty. It's lost all of that animalic oud, all of that sprightly rose. If you're somebody who can buy a bottle of this and just reapply every 2 to 3 hours, you'll be one of the best smelling people on earth. I mean, it just is. It's beautiful. The first couple hours are stunning, but a fragrance is more about than a first couple hours to me. And I'm sure, this is an early impression. I'm sure if somebody did a full review and really took the time, we're talking spent the time on it the way that Mark from the Robes 08 channel used to do, or AC from Smells Good used to do, when he did more individual reviews and really break the fragrance down, they would be able to give you more detail on just exactly how it breaks apart. But for me, these are only, I sprayed this at noon. It's 2:45. The difference in 2 hours and 45 minutes is stunning. To go from something so beautiful here, I sprayed this 15 minutes before the review, right? So this has only been on my hand half an hour. Half an hour. One of the most beautiful rose oud saffrons you'll smell with that patchouli sandalwood backbone. Oh, it's beautiful. Stunning scent. I mean, you could just sit here and smell it all day. And then to go to this. Completely dead. It's like it's just dead on your skin. Like it's just flat. It's completely flat. It's lost everything. It's lost everything about the fragrance that made it beautiful. How is that? How do you sell a fragrance for $800 and 3 to 4 hours in, this is what it smells like? I'm not happy with that at all. One part of me is completely smitten with the openings of these two Boadicea, the victorious fragrances I've smelled. The other part of me, the part that will wear vintage and really truly understands what a 12 or 20 hour dry down smells like, is very disappointed with this. This shows sloppiness, laziness. This shows somebody who didn't take the time to care about the dry down. When you're selling an $800, $900 fragrance, you better make sure that every single part of that fragrance is perfect. Everything. From the beginning to the mid to the dry down to the final goodbye, everything should be jaw-dropping. Everything should be stunning. You're basically saying, at this price point, you're saying this is the best fragrance on earth. Challenge me. This is the best fragrance on earth. And this is not the best fragrance on earth. This is the best fragrance maybe for somebody for an hour or two, but you're not spending that kind of money for an hour or two. That's my beef with Boadicea the Victorious so far. So far, that is my beef. I like fragrances that transition and change. I don't like fragrances that just lose everything. It loses all of its steam. It's like a steam engine that has no more steam. It's completely out of juice. It's just flat. That's it. It's just gone. That's very disappointing, especially since this is so beautiful. So that's and it feels a little bit disingenuous too, because it feels like they put all of their energy and effort into the first couple hours of these fragrances. Now, I've only smelled two. They literally have 200 plus fragrances, I think. So it's a little bit disingenuous to me because it feels like they're trying to, I don't want to use the word trick, I also don't want to use the word con, but those are the words that are coming to mind. If you're a newbie, or if you're just someone who thinks they want to take the next step in the fragrance game, and you go to a counter in Neiman Marcus and smell this, and don't put it on your skin and let it dry down, because when you spray on paper, what does it do? It actually slows down the way that the molecules break down. Paper slows everything down, okay? So on skin, this is going to speed up a lot quicker, a lot faster. On paper, it's going to feel like everything lasts longer. Some things may be accentuated on skin that don't get accentuated on paper. But if you just smelled this and you said, I want to take my fragrance game to the next level, and you sprayed it and you smelled it and you went, holy shit. And you will go, holy shit, because it's an amazing fragrance for an hour or two. You'd walk out of there, put it on, and then by hour 3, you're going, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? This is very disappointing. This is not even 3 hours old. Not even 3 hours old. It's lost all of it. It lost everything that it had going for it that I love. So yeah, it's only 2 fragrances, like I said. Can't judge an entire house by 2 fragrances, but this price point is so impossible for me to sample that I'm just gonna have to assume this is what the house is like. I mean, I would love to have like 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 mils or something of what was it? Intricate. That was a great fragrance for a couple hours. I can spray it on for a couple hours, spray it on again for a couple $100. I would totally go for that. But if I spent $800 on this retail, I would be pissed, completely pissed off if this is what it turned into. As a fragrance lover, that is, as a fragrance lover, as a outsider, you may not even notice this. You may just kind of spray it on, get the first couple whiffs, love it, and just no one's sitting there breaking down the dry down like, fragrance addicts are. But this is boring, amber woody smelling thing, The sandalwood doesn't even smell like high quality sandalwood to me. It just smells like a boring woody floral musk. I don't know. But that's my take. I know that the house is loved by some. I know that many people just do what I did in the past and just ignore the house because they seem like some bullshit overpriced house, that you're paying most of the money for the beautiful bottles that are handcrafted. And you are. You absolutely are. Let me see if there's a little blurb on the house I'll read you. Okay, here it is. Michael Boadicea, I guess that's where Boadicea comes from. Michael Boadicea, born 1969 in London, a prominent hairdresser who has worked for famous fashion houses and stars. An assignment for Vogue magazine in '94 marked the beginning of his international reputation. And since then, he has been counted among the most influential fashion influencers of the present day. In 2003, he founded a perfume brand. He came to perfumery as a self-taught as he was to hairdressing, and obviously just as talented at it. The perfumers who assist him in the creation of the fragrances are not made public, although this one literally says Christian Provenzano, so I don't know. Since it is all about the realization of his personal ideas and fragrance visions, the luxurious and high-priced brand Boadicea the Overpriced is respected and very successful on the market. The choice of name for Boadicea the Overpriced is a reference to the name of the founder, Michael Boadicea, yet the brand quite explicitly invokes the figure of Boadicea, also Boadicea, Boadicea, Bonduca, and her British national romantic myth. Boadicea was a Celtic tribal princess who rebelled against Roman occupation and led the ultimately unsuccessful Boadicea revolt in 6061 AD. Celtic cultural heritage, pride, belligerence, and determination are associated with the female army commander. She has a symbolic figure of courage and British stubbornness. Great. British craftsmanship and tradition, as well as the high-quality noble flacons in Celtic style, in addition to the similarity of the name, connect the perfumes of the brand with the historical figure, even though the fragrances do not smell quite as typically British as, for example, those of Floris or Penhaligon's. After the outstanding success of Boadicea the Victorious, Michael Bodai developed his second perfume brand in 2011, Aluminum. Wow, what a breakdown. I don't know what to say after that, but I guess the flat cones are kind of cool, to be fair, but the pricing is outrageous, and it just is what it is. And that's not just me bitching. That is almost feels like a hard fact. The prices seem outrageous. Obviously, the Boadicea the Victorious is the name in the article, not the overpriced. That was me being funny, but yes, it's that's my take on it. I mean, it's would I love to smell all 200 fragrances that they've done? Sure. Am I going to kill myself to do it? No. They fall in my lap, I'll talk about them on the channel. If not, I don't know if it's worth it, to be honest with you. There's so many vintage fragrances. My buddy Rich Mitch was just telling me he found some vintage Jean Patous today at a great price. You know, $100 or something. I won't say which Jean Patou, because I don't want someone to just go buy him off of in front of him if he's waiting. But yes, I own a bottle of this particular vintage Jean Patou he's talking about, and it's absolutely stunning. And it's $100, and I would take that over this all day, every day, twice on Sundays. So, you know, if you're somebody who associates high price with quality, you may love this brand. This may be your favorite brand. If you're someone that's subjective, you might come to the same conclusion that I came to. The dry downs just seem, I don't know how else to say it. On both of them, I was disappointed, and I've worn them back-to-back days now. So that's my take. I mean, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that I'm full of hot air. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me. You know, if you've tried some of this brand, what your favorites are. If you own some, which ones you own. But that's my initial take. And usually when I first wear a brand for the very first time, usually the first full wear is very telling, because I'm not just checking out the fragrance, I'm checking out the brand, I'm checking the quality. You know, it's like I'm testing it for weaknesses. I'm like the Velociraptor biting the fence, looking for weaknesses. This brand has a weakness to me. The dry downs are not well thought out so far. Extremely not well thought out. And it does feel like they're just trying to get people to buy it at the counter. That's what it feels like to me. So that's my take on Boadicea the Victorious. Thank you, Armando, for sharing your decant. Thank you, Boadicea, for sharing yours. They happen to be the same fragrance, which was kind of funny. And I looked on, I think it was fragrancebuy.ca. All Boadicea the Victoriouses were out of stock except for Nemer. This is it. This is the only one you can buy, and it's like $450. Originally $600 or something. And so yeah, I mean, this must be the more approachable one, or the more common one. I don't know. But Nemer is nice. I enjoy it for a couple hours. I just have to keep reapplying. So for one day, I can do that. But I would not be happy with this if I was like out and about. I didn't have my bottle with me and it turned into this. This is great. This is very boring. Very boring. Doesn't smell high quality at all. So anyways, that's my take. Sorry to have to do a video that ends on kind of a sour note. But I would love to know if anyone agrees or disagrees with me. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you can appreciate this is my honest take. Boadicea the Victorious. I don't know if they send out free bottles or not. I don't know how honest some of the reviews are. I don't even watch reviews on them, so I don't know. But do fill me in if anyone has more information. So thanks again, Armando. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.